Let's zoom in real quick to see what is happening in her shin.
The pain that the athlete might be feeling while she's running might be contributed to something called the medial tibial stress syndrome, MTSS, or better known as shin splints. Shin splints, or MTSS, is a repetitive stress injury of the shin area where repetitive muscle contractions and tibial strain cause the body to heal improperly. It is a very common injury, and it's a common cause for the exertional like pain in athletes. And some of the symptoms you might have already seen in the video include tenderness, soreness, or pain along the inner side of the shin bone and mild swelling of the lower leg. So let's take a deeper look into why or what might be causing shin splints from a biomedical approach with some professional biomechanics. Hi, my name is B.
I'm Felix.
And I'm Andrea.
And we are the biomechanists that will be explaining the athlete's problem with her shin. In order to determine possible causes of MTSS, or better known as shin splints, we must examine the force of muscle and the internal loading forces that are applied to the posterior-medial tibial border. And to pinpoint the differences in forces, we will be comparing walking and running forces. The values of these forces will be the point of reference for analysis of possible causes of shin splints. We need to find the internal load forces, and in order to understand that, internal loads are the internal applied force as a result of other external forces. And we study this because it helps us explain mechanisms of injuries, which in this case is the athlete's shin splints. And so let's begin with looking at the diagram that I have here with A, B, and C marked with the tibia, the force of muscle, and the ankle joint.
First, we're going to start off by looking at the walking free body diagram. This is the athlete walking, and that is the free body diagram that we drew for this instance. Now we're going to look at the knowns and unknowns of this athlete walking. These are the knowns. Take note that the weight is 500 newtons and the angle is 20 degrees. And these are the unknowns right here. The force of muscle, the shear stress. These are some forces that we've never seen before. So let's go over them. The shear force is an unaligned force that pushes one part of the body in a specific direction and another in the opposite. This will typically be going down. And then we have the axial force, NB, which is a compressive or tension force acting inside of the member. This will typically be going outwards. Then we have the bending moment, M, which is a moment that causes the element to bend. This can be either pointing clockwise or counterclockwise. Here we have our free body diagram again, and our knowns plugged into the free body diagram. And then we have our orientation, which the X is going up and Y is going left, and we have our counterclockwise positive. Then we solve for the sum of moments about C is equal to 0 because this is in a static equation, and then we set it up and solve for Fm, and Fm is negative 30.829 newtons, and this is a compressive force.
So now we're going to look at the free body diagram for the internal loading. As you can see, we've attached the internal loads to the free body diagram. And again, we've attached the axes. So now we're going to solve for the sum of forces in the x direction, and this we'll use to find the shear strain. So as you can see, we got it to be negative 10.544 newtons. Next, we're going to solve for the sum in the y direction, and with this, we're going to solve for the axial force. Once we solve for it, we got negative 521.03 newtons, which is a compressive force. Next, we're going to solve for the moments about the point A, which again will equal 0. Here we're going to solve for the moment at point B and plug in the knowns, and we'll get negative 1.193 newton meters.
Now we're going to solve for the athlete in the running position. We're using the same free body diagram as before. Let's look at our unknowns and knowns. First, for knowns, please take note that the weight is now 3 times, so it's 1,650 newtons. And we also increased the angle to 30 degrees. And for our unknowns, we are looking for the same things as we did before. Okay, so now here's the free body diagram again, except we're increasing our angle to 30 degrees and the weight by 3 times. We increase the weight by 3 times because when you're running, you increase your weight by 3 times in the body. And there's the same setup equation for the moment about C equals to 0, and this is a little different because we did increase the weight and increase the angle, and we get Fm is equal to negative 65.828 newtons, and this is also a compressive force.
Now for the internal loading, we're going to do a similar thing as we've done before. So again, we're going to do the sum of the x's, and we'll get that the shear strain is negative 32.914 newtons. For the sum of the forces in the y direction, we'll get that the axial force is going to be equal to negative 1,592.991 newtons, which is a compressive force. Then we're going to do the sum of the moments about the point A, which is equal to 0 again. And solving for this with the newfound values, we'll get that the bending moment will be equal to negative 4.477 Newton meters.
So now we're going to look at the summary of our values that we just found. These are the values for walking, and these are the values for running. Overall, we saw an increase in all the values, but specifically, the force of muscle had a 2 times increase.
So how does that increase affect shin splints?
Well, doubling the force of muscle will double the force exerted on the bone, which will lead to an increased pain on the shin.
Then we can see that the shear stress and axial force increased by 3 times and that the bending moment increased by 4 times.
Can you explain how this affects the pain?
So shear stress can actually lead to bone deformation, and the axial force, since it's a compressive force, can lead to buckling of the bone, which can lead to the shattering of the bone. This only happens when the force is large enough, which in this case hasn't reached that limit yet. But the bending moment is basically reflects the shear and axial force, and since that increased by 4 times, we can see that the bone is bending more, which causes micro tears, and that's what you feel in shin splints.
Here are some of the recommendations we have for the athlete to ease the pain of shin splints. The first is cushioned running shoes, and the second is shin brace. Both of these increase support and increase sturdiness of the shin.
Thank you for listening. Have a pain-free run.